versus new, experience versus inexperience.
Bernard Hopkins was at the top of most of the pound-for-pound lists.
To prove I'm the best in the middleweight division, I think I've done that, but there's one other guy that was out there, and that's Jermain Taylor.
Jermain Taylor was more alive than any of the other bodies that Bernard had ever been in with.
He dominated every opponent put in front of him. He had a great jab. He was a big middleweight.
It is mind against body in this fight.
I just respected him too much, way too much, than a fighter's supposed to. And I would never do that again.
The energy level belongs to Jermain Taylor.
Taylor kept distance, kept range, used his length.
In the early rounds, he felt that I was stronger than him.
Hard right hand inside by Bernard Hopkins.
And that's the only regret I have for the first fight is that when I had him hurt, I didn't stop him.
Bernard, who has made a living of wearing guys down and bombing them out, he wasn't able to do it in this fight.
And the long reign of Bernard Hopkins is over. You got a brand new star in boxing. His name is Jermain Taylor.
Bernard Hopkins is in a situation he hasn't been in many years.
Can he avenge a loss? Can he go out and right a wrong?
I'm willing to win and knowing that a loss can happen. I'm willing to take a chance and knowing that you can be killed. I mean, that's the type of guy I always been.
I want to know that I beat this guy. I beat him down to where there ain't nobody in the world can look at that fight and say he won, especially if you get up off his back.
When the fight was being made between Bernard and Jermain, you did get a feel that there was the potential for a changing of the guard.
But also a general skepticism that it would actually happen.
You had Hopkins, who was an older fighter, and Taylor, you know, was the upstart fighter looking to make a mark and undefeated, and this was his first big spot.
If Bernard had chosen to fight 2 or 3 other fights to finish out his career, and then stepped away and said, I'm finished, I don't think that anybody would have crucified Bernard Hopkins for not having fought somebody who was demonstrably younger, stronger, faster, presumably hungrier.
Why did you fight Jermain Taylor? I could have fought Minnie Mo and Jack and went out on my sleeve making millions and millions of dollars and been done with it. But I chose to take a risk knowing that I am the better fighter.
Well, I think Hopkins took the fight for 2 reasons. I think he thought Jermain Taylor was not ready for him. I think the other thing was there was the whole issue of Hopkins and Jermain's promoter, Lou DiBella, who left HBO Sports to promote Bernard Hopkins' career. He ended up getting his big fight against Felix Trinidad and winning that fight. When the success comes, success breaks them apart. Hopkins felt he didn't need Lou DiBella or anybody else. What am I paying him for? Said some dreadful things about Lou DiBella. Claimed he forced him to pay him a $50,000 kickback while he was still at HBO. But they ended up in a defamation suit. DiBella won. Hopkins owed him $600,000. He appealed. He lost again.
A lot of people believe that the only reason Bernard elected to fight Jermain Taylor at the time when he did is because Jermain's advisor/promoter was Lou DiBella.
You ain't putting me out of business, Bernard. And on the night of July 16th, when you're twitching on the campus, the only thing that's going to end is the executioner's error.
I said, Lou, listen, man. You know, I know you and Bernard got y'all thing going on, but I hope you be happy when we over in that corner for me. And not because, you know, you beat Bernard or something, or your fighter beat Bernard.
I was very emotionally invested in that fight. Jermain and I have been together since the first day of his pro career. And I think we've grown to trust one another. You know, I genuinely like him. I think he genuinely likes me.
Lou wanted this win more than anything in the world because he had Jermain Taylor now, was his new guy looking to bump off his old guy, and what sweet revenge that would be.
160 even.
The weigh-in was a turning point for Jermain Taylor when he showed, not just to himself, but to his fans and really the world, that he wasn't going to be pushed around by this champion any longer.
I think that Taylor wanted to show that he was coming not to celebrate Hopkins' record-breaking reign as the middleweight champion, but to take it away from him.
I believe I said something to him first, and I think it was something like, you know, this is the big time, and it's on, basically letting him know that this is the top of the heat.
He said something first, and I said something back. To be honest with you, I always wanted to do that. You always wanted to be like, you know what, and then the way in we get into it or something.
This is less than 24 hours for the fight. And I want to let him know that those doubts going to come out about what he thinks he's going to do to Bernard Hopkins.
Man, it was just, I'm ready to fight. I am ready to fight this man. Wherever we want to fight, they better get a ring in here right now.
And it's finally time for our main event, Bernard Hopkins versus Jermain Taylor. At stake, the undisputed middleweight crown.
I don't care how hard you train. I don't care how hard you come to the gym, hit the bag. It don't make a difference. Until you come out there for that first time and see the lights and the crowd and the cameras and everybody just screaming your name. Of course, it's going to be a big shocker for you.
He has the very look of youthful promise, sleek as a bullet.
Bernard Hopkins has had as many championship fights as Jermain Taylor has had professional fights.
Hopkins wanted to see what the kid had, wanted to see if the momentous event with fighting for the middleweight championship of the world in a big venue was going to in some way lead the kid to burn himself out so that he could come on later in the fight, as he has often done.
The celebrated professor of boxing is going to take to school a precocious student. Is the student ready to graduate?
In the early rounds, he felt that I was strong in him, so I'm chasing him, I'm throwing punches. I'm busy.
The sheer physicality of Jermain Taylor is keeping Bernard Hopkins on the defensive.
Jermain was Jermain. Jermain was doing everything that he needed to do, working his jab, working his combination.
2 jabs land for Taylor, and another. Crowd is getting very excited at the young fighter's prospects here.
Taylor is impressively poised so far.
And Hopkins hasn't solved the puzzle quite yet.
I'm looking like I want to win, and he's running, moving, running.
By the time, 2-3 rounds were over, Bernard Hopkins knew he's in a fight, that he's not just going to walk through this guy.
Outside right.
Was he effective? Yes. Was he aggressive? Yes, but he wasn't effectively aggressive. It's a difference. He's missing, but he's being aggressive.
I was a little over anxious, so I chased him around the ring too much. A lot of missed punches that never should have happened. I did a lot of things that, I wasn't supposed to do.
Start doubling those jabs. When he drops down, bang to the body, you're crowding yourself. Okay, he's just dropping down and you're overshooting.
Everything worked the way we planned it. Not changing a thing in that particular fight. And the bull did just what a bull does when he can't catch the matador. Tire out and ready to get slayed.
Taylor missing wildly with the right hand on 2 occasions.
Hopkins is the kind of guy that's a defensive fighter. He surveys the land a little bit. And, he takes his time to set things up.
As a result, he got behind on points in the early part of the fight.
And I think he just made a miscalculation of starting too late.
There are only 12 rounds in the fight. If you're down 4 and soon to be down 6 or 7, you got to start thinking knockout. There's a cut on the eye of Jermain Taylor from a headbutt.
Jermain was caught by a headbutt, and that kind of took him out of his game a little bit. First time in his career, he saw blood dripping down his face.
The cut went right straight to the cranial. It was simply to the bone.
This is not street fight. This is an art. You go in there, 2 fists, and you fight. You don't use your head and try to hurt nobody, man.
You telling me everybody that rides on any major highway in the world do the speed limit? The referee job is to tell me if Bernard Hopkins is breaking the rules or not. It's not Jermain. Your job is to protect yourself at all times, to go in there and fight.
Hopkins' confidence now seems to be growing. The cut on Taylor's head may be bothering Jermain.
If you had watched Bernard for a long time, you had a little smirk on your face. Bernard's a pretty slick guy. He uses everything available to him.
Hard right hand inside by Bernard Hopkins. Brilliant counter right hand. Caught Taylor flush.
The fight started to change a little bit because of the experience factor of Hopkins started to kick in. He knew that he could handle the late rounds in this kind of fight.
This is the kind of fight Bernard Hopkins wants right here.
Yeah, this is Hopkins' strength, really.
They tell y'all that I'm old, I'm 40, and Father Time is knocking.
Deep breath for me.
And you see Bernard Hopkins just look fresh, not even breathing.
Late in the fight, Hopkins had adjusted. He saw that he could hit Taylor with the right hand as long as he threw it.
Oh, he gets caught with a big right hand. That may be the punch that could turn it around for Hopkins.
And then by the 8th, 9th round, Bernard was just whipping up on him.
Bernard Hopkins got in the big right hand shot.
Winning the rounds perhaps more decisively than Taylor had won the early rounds.
You know, he keep with a couple of shots, never hurt me because he don't have the power to. In those later rounds, I'll be honest with you, I didn't have nothing.
I thought that I could have knocked Jermain Taylor out 4 or 5 times in the early 5th and 6th, 7th round. I mean, definitely in the 9th and the 10th.
The fighting instinct is rising in Taylor. That's going to give Hopkins some chances. Hopkins knocked the mouthpiece out with the right. Bernard looks to counter with that big right. And Jermain's left eye is swelling.
Jermain Taylor was sort of faced with a personal crisis. What are you going to do? Are you going to end up like Trinidad with your father running in there to save you? Instead, he said, no, I'm going to throw punches back.
Good body shots by Taylor, right and left, and he gets away before the counter comes.
Once Bernard started hitting Jermain Taylor and Jermain started to fighting back a little bit, Bernard once again would cut off and go back into defense.
He's saying that I really didn't have much of nothing left in those later rounds. So he came on. And every time he tried to come on, I always came back with something.
I believe clearly after the 8th, but I say 7th, all the way to the 12th, that I was in full control. I mean, he just grabbed me and held me until the referee prowled us open like we were stuck like glue.
And Bernard, who has made a living of wearing guys down and bombing them out, wasn't able to do it in this fight.
This fight has tightened up on the scorecards. There'll be high drama in the 12th.
I do have a regret. It's that I didn't finish him when I had it.
Got to close big. Got to have this round big. Got to have it.
You have to have this round. You have to have 12th round. You understand me? Let it go.
I knew that this was it. I said, okay, it's the last round, man. He gonna have to take me out, either knock me out, or he's not gonna win this fight.
Jermain Taylor is reticent to let his hands go against Hopkins' right hand. Going to make it harder for him to win the round, which is what Pat Burns demanded. Best right hand of the night for Jermain Taylor. Hopkins tries to come back immediately. Right hand lead landed for Hopkins. That was not the mouthpiece. That was Vaseline that blew off of Taylor's head. Well, it promised to be the toughest title defense.
Oh, that hurt him.
Of Hopkins' long middleweight reign, and it certainly has been that.
That hurt Jermain Taylor real bad then, I think.
Taylor is slightly wobbly now. Bernard Hopkins, with all his guile and skill, looking for that 21st consecutive title defense. And Taylor trying to fight his way to the finish.
Jermain showed in that fight late when he was getting hurt and he was against the ropes and Bernard was landing his best punches of the fight that he could stand up to it, he could take it, and he could come back. It was a good view inside the heart that Taylor has.
5 seconds left in the fight. The judges are going to get to choose the winner.
Before Michael Buffer made the announcement, Jermain Taylor and his handlers didn't look as if they'd won.
Man, you made a lot of mistakes, JT. You know, in those later rounds, man, you made a lot of mistakes.
I think Jermain Taylor has very high standards for himself. Moments after the fight, he felt he'd lost.
Jermain didn't look like he won because he didn't fight the fight that he wanted to. He knows that he's got more in him and he could have fought better. So that's why he wasn't static after the fight.
Contrast to the Hopkins corner. When everyone was excited, they figured they'd won the fight.
Look at my demeanor, look at my face. It was a confidence of a winner. It is what it is.
I'm just thinking, you know, did I do enough to win those earlier rounds? And in my head, I'm thinking, I can't wait to the rematch. I can't wait to fight this man again. I can't wait to fight this man. Just give me one more time. I promise I'll do better.
I think Hopkins looked to me a bit like Hagler did before the Leonard decision. I think he felt, I defended my title. And Taylor, to me, looked physically spent and mentally quite unsure of himself, as he should have been.
What always going through my head was, did I do enough to win?
Ladies and gentlemen, here at the MGM Grand, we go to the scorecards. Jerry Roth scores the bout 116 to 112 for Hopkins. Dwayne Ford, 115-113 for Taylor. Paul Smith, 115-113 to the winner by split decision. And new undisputed middleweight champion of the world, Jermain Taylor.
But right there, I must have did something right.
And I think Bernard Hopkins figured that he was going to win the fight because of what he did in the last 4 rounds. He really should have stepped it up a lot more and said to himself, you know what, I'm behind in this fight. I got to knock this guy out to win.
I knocked him silly a few times, but didn't knock him out, believing that if I won the fights based on winning without knockout, that they would do the right thing. If anything, I gambled on that.
The one thing that steeps everything in controversy is the one judge's scorecard where the 12th round was given to Jermain Taylor, which is totally ridiculous.
I respectfully, or maybe non-respectfully, disagreed with Judge Dwayne Ford, but Bernard shouldn't have put himself in that position where he needed the last round for a draw.
From the 5th or 6th round on, Larry, I think I just dominated the fight. Had him hurt twice.
I think I burnt a little bit too much energy in those first couple of rounds, and I got a little winded on the end stretch.
We all, other than Dwayne Ford, agree on Bernard Hopkins won the 12th round.
He got some good shots in, but he never hurt me.
I should have got a unanimous decision. I had him on Quiz Street, badly hurt, twice.
A true champion, if he loses, he goes home and he watches the tape. Looks, okay, I did that wrong. And not crying, talking about, I was robbed by the judge. That ain't no champion, man. I mean, you lost.
I can't control what the judges do. And no fighter should have to go in the ring knowing that he must knock a guy out.
Do you hear me saying, well, Bernard, tell me about the other round. Tell me about the 3rd and 4th round. You know you didn't win those rounds, so now what? So is the 12th round gonna count as 2 rounds? No. You know, so man, just shut up.
I give Bernard credit for one thing, being a smart fighter, and so I don't think that he underestimated Jermain Taylor at all. I think he just fought a bad strategy fight by starting late.
When you left the arena, the one thing you knew about Jermain Taylor was that he came there to become middleweight champion of the world. He wanted to win the fight, and he paid the prices that he had to pay to win the fight.
You got a brand new star in boxing, the king of the middleweight division. His name is Jermain Taylor.
When Jermain Taylor came back from Las Vegas after winning the undisputed middleweight champion, the town threw him a parade. It was an event that I didn't expect to reach the proportions that it did.
And they were only out there for one reason, and that was to see Jermain Taylor and to welcome him back and to say, we have a champion.
And they poured into the city to cheer Jermain on. I mean, he was the state's hero and still is.
I was just like, man, is this real? You know, all these people showing up just for me.
I want to thank everybody for coming out. Thank you, Little Rock.
I got up there, and the whole crowd was yelling, JT. Man, I was just like, look at all these people. It's hard to explain what I was feeling. I just wanted to let them know that I appreciate it. It's because of them.
Thank y'all so much.
Arkansas is beautiful, and that's why I represent it like I do.
First phone call we had, I got back in my office Monday morning after he became world champion. Arkansas Razorback head coach Houston Nutt wanted Jermain to come speak to the Razorback football team right before the season started.
Jermain was a little hesitant going in because he said, nah, I'm a boxer and these guys is football player. How's I'm going to relate to these guys?
I'm really not a big speaker, especially with people I don't know. And if I'm trying to tell these guys what to do and how to do it, you know, I want to make sure that I tell them something that can help them.
And he says, if I don't train full speed every day, then I don't box full speed in the ring. There's no way I can become a champion unless I do it every day.
When y'all in the gym, man, give 100%. I guarantee you, when you get out on that field, can't nobody touch you because that's all you know is 100%.
Now you got a champion telling you you need to do it every day. Well, that's going to change your speed.
The thing that people talk about a lot here in Arkansas is that we don't have a professional sports franchise. And so Jermain Taylor has basically become our professional sports franchise.
I'm their professional team. You know, and every time you see me on TV, I'm always in something with a hog on it. You know, I always support my state, always.
I'm glad I'm not having to run against this guy for governor. If he ran, I'd just quit. I mean, it'd be over.
So what he said, man? Tell him he ain't got nothing to worry about. He can have his job. You know what I'm saying? I'm stick with the boxing.
Yeah, my name's Darryl Richardson. The legend, they call me the legend around here. I've been cutting Jermain's hair about, I'd say about 8 years now, 9 years, ever since he was an amateur boxer.
Well, you know when Jermain go get a haircut, you know how the guys does in the barbershop. They talk a lot of smack. You know, Jermain, you know, he's just a regular guy. And the people around there loves him.
Same old person, nothing changed. Matter of fact, this is the first dollar he ever paid me with right here.
You know, he told me, man, it was a food stamp, wasn't it? Yeah, he told me about it, man. I said, no, you didn't, man. I didn't pay that man with no food stamp.
I don't know if I would say Bernard Hopkins has been a sore loser. He has not accepted defeat readily.
I'm the champ until Jermain Taylor beats Bernard Hopkins like the world will want to see. Not by getting a favor or gift.
He'd been a great champion for a long time. He had been undefeated since 1993 when he fought Roy Jones, and he didn't know what it was like to lose, and he was kind of like, I can't believe I lost this guy. I can't believe what's happened here.
They did this to a fighter of my stature. It was wrong. You don't do that to Bernard Hopkins because I'm good for boxing. I've been around as one of the icons, the last of the Mohicans.
Bernard Hopkins is in a situation he hasn't been in many, many years. He's lost. He's not the champion.
Bernard Hopkins had been successful for so long and had battled so many forces inside and outside the ring, and he took it hard. He thought he won the fight, and that's perfectly legitimate.
It wasn't a situation like when I fought Roy Jones over 11 years ago where I knew I lost, and I dealt with it that way. This is a situation where I won, and they gave it to the other guy.
His pride was really hooked and connected to being the champion for so long. And it was very frustrating. It was very difficult for him.
The one thing you must understand in this fight is Bernard Hopkins is fighting for his legacy.
He's already a guy that's got the record for middleweight defenses. But if he doesn't win, he's a guy where people will say, yeah, but who did he fight? Fair or not fair?
Bernard Hopkins is a first ballot Hall of Famer. Whether he loses his fight, wins his fight, has another fight, whatever, he's done enough.
Bernard knows he is considered one of the 4 or 5 best middleweights who have ever laced up the gloves.
My legacy means what it reflects. 20 defenses, undefeated with this disputed situation that's going to be undisputed. I would not go down as an average fighter in or out of the ring.
Bernard Hopkins is right up there with the greatest middleweights of all time.
Hopkins imposing his will and his skill.
So in the last quarter of the 20th century, he rates, along with Monzon and Hagler, as one of the 3 greatest middleweights.
Bernard Hopkins' achievement of 20 defenses is something that may not be approached, much less beaten.
He destroyed Oscar De La Hoya. He didn't just beat him. He destroyed Felix Trinidad. He didn't just beat him. All the guys of his era he beat, with the exception of Roy Jones. And Jones would never gave him a second chance to fight him.
I think if Bernard Hopkins wins this fight, he'll be able to tell the boxing world for the rest of his life, I told you so. Because I recaptured my title, and they can never take that away from me.
If he doesn't win this fight, he's gone. You know, you get a second chance, but not a third usually.
How profound has my legacy have started and how it will end? Now, going into this second war, and I have the motivation of not beating Jermain Taylor, but doing what I've done all my career. It's first stand up, debate, suffer, and then beat him at the end.
He knows his greatness is depending on this fight. And if he can punctuate that greatness with a W, that adds to his legacy. I think that propels him psychologically more than anything that's prodding Jermain Taylor.
How can you not be interested in this rematch? Anything can happen in this fight. We can have a knockout, 2 guys going toe-to-toe, another controversial ending.
Jermain Taylor doesn't believe he beat Hopkins the first time.
I feel like I still have something to prove. I feel like I'm going in there, I'm fighting for my belts all over again. I have to bring those belts home with me again.
For Bernard Hopkins, you know, the question is, did I fight as well as I could the first time and still lose? If I did, then I'm in trouble in the second fight.
Bernard Hopkins will win this fight and show that what I could have did in the first fight, I could have do in this fight, and that's hit him when I want to hit him, beat him up, and then knock him out.
The first fight, Jermain Taylor was the calm guy, the quiet guy. In this fight, he's the more emotional fighter. He's Bernard Hopkins this time. This man has nothing. He has no power. He has no speed. He has nothing. This time, Bernard Hopkins seems to have everything under control. He's a challenger for the first time in a long time.
He got to carry this promotion. I ain't doing nothing. I want all the media to know I ain't being an asshole. This benefits me.
Logic tells you all Bernard has to do in the second fight is crank it up a little earlier, fight the same fight, and he'll be fine, and I'm sure that's what most people think.
Bernard is not going to permit himself to get behind on points as bad as he did in the first fight.
Jermain knows all the things he did wrong, and it's going to just make him that much better when they get ready for the second fight.
Because after I destroyed Jermain Taylor, he's going to need about 6 months to recuperate. He ain't gonna be right back to them, beat him up, punish him, take his will, take his heart, beat the lamb up.
I respect him too much last time, so this time, I'm gonna give him none, because he deserves none.
People want to see if Hopkins can make his come-from-behind run earlier, and if the kid can be better. Is the kid real?
One thing I know about Bernard Hopkins is that if he goes against somebody once, that he's more effective the second time around.
Hopkins was on his way to at least saying he was the greatest middleweight of all time. Let's find out if there was any truth to that.
Bernard Hopkins is going to start earlier. Jermain Taylor will try to finish stronger. And therein lies the tale of how this fight will go.
Am I going to see a continuation of the end of the first fight, round 13? Or are we going to go back and watch the beginning of the first fight from round 1? And this could be probably the best middleweight title fight in 20 years.